Were you guys able to sign in? Everyone signed in? Did you guys all get to sign in? Power of social media to bring people together. Look at this. Guys, thank you so much for coming here tonight. I really appreciate you guys all coming out. I appreciate these women for being here, as well as Bill Wallace. And we're super excited about short-term rentals. Obviously, a lot of people are. So I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Meg Mutt. My husband told me to not take his last name, but I said I feel like it'd look really good on real estate signs. And it's like 6 letters, so you know. So I'm a real estate broker associate with Century 21. I was number 1 in Rhode Island for Century 21 Northeast. I'm like getting a little nervous. I don't know why. So anyway, our Century 21, we go all the way from Maine down to Florida. So if you guys need any help purchasing, we have a ton of ability just within our own corporation, which is kind of cool. And so I am licensed specifically in Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and I am hoping to get mine in Florida. Literally have to just go take a test, so I'm gonna go do that. So you guys better all be on my butts about, like, are you getting your Florida license? And we are here today at the Cbd Relief Center. This is a project that my husband and I, had an endeavor. We were like, we really want to provide awesome CBD products, quality CBD products. So anyway, we are here at the Cbd Relief Center. My husband, really wanted to start providing like high quality products for everyone, and a place to kind of come in and just ask questions. And so here we are. It's a beautiful space on the east side, and you can come in. We have tinctures, we have pain creams, we have dog treats, we have gummies, and anybody who purchases tonight will get a 10% discount. So we appreciate you guys being here. Please follow us on Instagram, share us. We're a small business, so anything helps. So anyway, why are we even here? Okay, so what are we all doing here? So anyway, I met Danielle. She, she's a boss bitch, owns her own real estate, real estate portfolio. We have Rena here too. She is also involved in AirBNB. And then we have Ashley, who is just amazing. I love her. I'm so happy I met her. And anyway, so how this kind of got started was my husband and I went skiing. We went up to Vermont, and I rented a house for a week, and it was about $2,600. And to me, like a week, $2,600, it's not chump change. So I'm thinking to myself, like, all right, well, if this guy's making at least, and this was on discount, right, because we did it for a week. So essentially, he's making about $10,000 a month, which is awesome. So if you think about kind of the mortgage in total and the expenses and how much you really need to bring in, it kind of just started jogging my mind, like, all right, so I kind of need a third of the year, right, to be rented out for us. And then next year I don't have to spend the $2,500 to go on my vacation, right? So so this is kind of like how this came about. Lately I've been really into, well, not lately, I'm a spiritual person, but my question lately has been like, what is the purpose? Like, what is the purpose of the things that we are doing? What is the purpose of you even coming here tonight, right? And so I want you to all have gathered this information. And honestly, information isn't anything without action. So I really applaud you guys being here, but I don't want you to just come here and walk out of here. That's why you all better have signed in. So action's super important. Action's everything, because talk it's cheap, right? So, and collaboration is super key, and that's something that I think we've been doing a lot of lately with realtors in our industry. It's very non-collaborative, and I want to continue to really make that collaborative and make education the forefront for everybody to be able to learn how to invest and what they need to do. Step 1, 2, 3. So I encourage all of you guys to make a plan with yourself about how you want to invest, whether that's with your husband, whether that's with your partner, your wife, yourself, but I want you to be accountable to that plan. And I want you to find people that are going to help you be accountable to that plan. And so that's something that I'm kind of excited about here that we're going to be doing. So, all right, I want you all to close your eyes. Okay, close your eyes. All right. Take 2 deep breaths in and out. All right, I want you to visualize the next Airbnb rental that you guys are going to buy, all right? What does it look like? All right? Is it hot? Is it cold? Are you skiing? Are you on the beach? Are you walking downtown? So let's buy that thing. We're going to do that. All right, so you can open your eyes. You guys saw it, you felt it, we visualized it. So now we're going to get all the information that we need, and I'm super, super, super excited. So I'm going to welcome the rest of these beautiful ladies, and we'll go from there. So why did you guys even get into Airbnbs? So for me, I had this moment, right, where I had been buying properties to, like, residential rental properties, and it was time to build the portfolio and kind of add the next property. And this little light bulb went off, and I said, wait a minute, I could buy a property that I can also use and enjoy with my friends, family. It's still a good investment. It's going to make some money, right? It's a business investment. So why not see if I can do this whole Airbnb thing? And from there, it kind of just snowballed. I truly love it. So it's just really been this, like, I have found my passion, I like to say. Well, I feel like you guys are both very design-oriented. I know you are, but I think that that's something that really almost intrigued you, engaged you. I know, well, I know, you're like, ah. The fun part. Where I'm not, I'm like the numbers person, so I'm like, as long as it's making money, I'm like, that looks cute and that looks cute. Can we do that? But not like putting it all together at all. So how about you?
For me, I think I travel a lot, and so we stayed in Airbnbs all the time. My parents moving to South Carolina.
Myrtle
and
Beach.
They wanted, they're in Merrill's Inlet, so they wanted to be sure that they liked it down there before they sold their home in Lincoln. So at that time, I just started in real estate, and I said, well, why don't I put it on Airbnb, and we'll see how that goes, and then that way, it's still here if you decide you want to come back. So we did that. I loved it. They ended up staying there. We sold their house, and then I kind of thought about just building it for my retirement, so that come retirement, not only can I sell my properties, but I can sell the business, and I'll have years of numbers and all of that. So I bought one last year, the beginning of last year. I actually took a client to see it for their primary residence, and he didn't like it, and I just thought it was perfect for me. My first one was about having somewhere close to my house so that I could always get to it quickly, and also so that when my parents came home, they were close by. So that's how I started it, and I did like a family one, and now I'm working on opening 2 more, totally different themes, and it's fun.
So that's a great point. I feel like you had mentioned to me, how do you really want to, number one, invest in your property, or invest in the Airbnb, but the theme of the Airbnb came up. So talk to me a little bit about how you guys come up with your themes and how you execute that. So for me, it's all about the property. So like when I'm designing a property, I like to go when no one is there. I kick the contractors out. I can't have a friend there with me giving an opinion. I go in this empty space, and I just kind of like feel out the house, and I just picture like, how are people going to use this place? Where are we? Like, are we in Newport? Are we in New Hampshire, right? So that helps me decide my theme, and therefore my furnishings, even like the name. I like to name the houses, so. Yeah, it's like marketing. It's a full experience. I like the house to be a full experience, so that's how I come up with it. How about you?
The first one was really just, it was completely remodeled, cute little ranch, but it had an amazing backyard. It has a huge koi pond, like the size of an in-ground pool. I didn't even know there were fish in there. The agent told me there was, but it was winter, so it was frozen and you don't see anything. Came the spring, when it started to thaw out, it's absolutely beautiful. So I thought, okay, this is a great backyard for families, and I set up mini experiences, and I kind of just went with like a farmhouse family place. So like I have a Graco, I have a high chair, bowls, just stuff so that I get a lot of families. So when they're traveling, they don't have to worry about, shoving all that stuff in the car or getting it on the plane. It's there. And so like I call it playing koi because there's so many different games inside and outside, and then with the koi pond I just came up with that. But otherwise with the other two I just kind of think about like if I was going to stay there, what would I want?
Right.
So like the next one is like for a girls' weekend. Even if you live in the state, it's just somewhere where you can go.
Away.
And there's all different micro experiences and stuff you can do like within the unit with your friends without leaving.
Right. Cool.
So,
So what advice, when you guys talk about the different places that you've invested in, what's the thing that we should look at, that everybody should start looking at in terms of where to invest? I mean, for us, when I called Danielle, she was like, call the town, see if they even allow it, and
That's my answer.
I called Jamaica, Vermont, and they were like, yeah, we're fine. Like, it is totally fine.
Yeah.
So how did you guys kind of choose the different locations?
My first location in Newport, it just came to me, so I'm thinking, where can I invest that I can also use it? I wanted to be close by because I was afraid to be too far for my first one. So I just started looking in like waterfront, beach town kind of areas in Rhode Island. And I also like to look at places that have backup plans. So I want something that's also within a certain range of a college. Because let's say, for example, right now, Newport's given a hard time. Well, Newport's given a hard time with regulations. They're changing things on the daily. So let's say I can't do short-term rental there anymore. There's a college nearby, so I could backup plan rent to students or
Just in
staff,
case.
right? So I kind of look for that. And then I want a town that draws people in. Like Newport, for example, they have all types of festivals, weddings, all of this. Like people will go on Airbnb and actually search that town or something that's going on in that area. And therefore I'll show up. So I kind of look for places that have that.
That something's happening. There's
Yeah.
like an activity of
Yeah.
sorts.
Yep.
I'm like, did I ask you?
For me, it was just it happened to be in that area, and these other two also happen to be in the area. But for me, looking, just kind of keeping an eye out for my next one. I'd probably like to do one more in the state, but one more out of state. I look at AirDNA. It's a MASH advisor? No.
Well, AirDNA also helps you find the pricing on
Well, so yeah, they're gonna tell you like this is how many
ballpark. Yeah,
is there.
they say
Right,
base,
it's not
like
exactly.
baseline. It's like RPR.
They'll tell
come on.
you how many properties are there right now, how often they're vacant. Based off of numbers they get from Airbnb. You can actually get a lot of that information on Airbnb too. So I opposite kind of look for places that are kind of up and coming. I think that's what I want to do, but also somewhere I want to travel to. Because if I have to go there all the time and check on it, I want to be able to enjoy it too, right? So what's the point? So
What was my other question? So, how do you guys find out in terms of like the pricing for the property? How did you kind of come about determining that? Was that just specifically from Airbnb? Have we made some failures there? Can we do better?
I've looked at like AirDNA. There's one called All the Rooms that I really like. They're actually a little more accurate than AirDNA. AirDNA is kind of comparable to Zillow. So it's, the numbers are off, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of look at those, and then I'll go on Airbnb and I'll look up comparable properties and kind of see what they're renting for. I even go as far as like looking at their calendar, because you can put in certain dates or you can override the date function and look at their calendar. So if I'm looking in Vermont, let's say, and I see these properties that are open all summer, now I know this thing isn't going to rent in the summer. I just looked at 4 different properties, right? So I want something where I see their calendars blocked out a little bit each season, right? But I look at their numbers, I look at their occupancy rates, and I kind of determine that way. Because if something is $1,000 a night, but their calendar is open, they're too high, right? So I need to be lower. So I kind of do a whole analysis like that.
That's smart.
I mean, I definitely looked in the area. I underpriced it, really, in the beginning, and I kind of went with what AirBNB said and did their pricing tool. Don't do that. And then all of a sudden, after it went live, I mean, and I still haven't even gotten the professional photos in there yet, and it was just like, book. And it wasn't, you know, I think it was at $205 a night. And then there's a cleaning fee, and there's a pet fee. So I was not upset about the pricing, but I realized right away, I got back on, blocked off the months, and then started looking at it differently, and I adjust them. You know, if it's a few weeks out, and I have an open couple of days here, because I will do like a 2-day minimum, then I'll maybe drop it if it's in the middle of the week, and you know. But I also put mine on places like, you know, like Style Studio, places like that where someone can, if it's my property is open and someone wants to come do pictures or a photographer, they can rent it for the day.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So that way, like, especially with the yard, it just, you know, I've had people rent it. I have kids and I have my son's birthday party coming up, but I don't have time to clean the house and make it the way I want. Can I rent your property, you know, for the day? And
Yeah.
you know, yeah, I mean, sure, and you're not gonna stay over, I don't have to clean your towels, and the cleaner doesn't have to come, all right. You know, it's,
So let's talk a little bit about that. I think that the biggest thing that most people kind of, when they get into an Airbnb, they're thinking like, well, what's the turnover gonna be? So who's cleaning it? Who's cleaning the towels? How do you guys currently do that? And then how did you first do it? How do you currently do it? How could you do it better?
So I have cleaners that go in and do
You're not cleaning it yourself?
I'm not cleaning it, and but if I was just starting out, or if the property was close by, it's just that I have other businesses, so I'm just trying to juggle, right? So
You're delegating.
I'm delegating.
Yeah, exactly.
The book, not how, but who. It's a really good book. So delegate, not how am I going to do this, who am I going to put in that place so I can accomplish this.
Right.
So I've been really trying to use that. So cleaners, I find cleaners wherever the property is, and I interview them. And I really try to find out, have they done short-term rental turnovers? Because if this is just a regular house cleaner, they're not going to get it. And I mean, for example, right now, New Hampshire, I have a property in New Hampshire that is back-to-back. So I have guests checking out at 10 and new guests coming in at 3. It's a 5-bedroom house. So they are hustling to get done on time. So I have my cleaners in place, and I have backup cleaners in place. Because what happens if that cleaner can't make it and I have 10 to 3? I either have to fly to New Hampshire
Legitimately.
and clean this house, or I have my plan B. And I even have a plan C, but
That's smart.
that's my emergency fund. But yeah, so I just find cleaners in the areas and get them set up.
I mean, I did it in the beginning because I wanted to make notes and give like a list of, you know, this is a typical clean, but every 3rd clean, I want you to do this. Every 4th clean, I want you to do this extra. Every couple months, I want a deep clean. So I'm a list person because that's what works for me. So I like to give other people that.
So maybe you could share that with them?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, obviously, it depends on your unit, but it's all basics, basically. And then also, like, I wanted to make lists of, like, inventory and toilet paper and stuff like that so that my cleaner could also say to me, all right, we're at this point with toilet paper or this and that, can you order it? Just so that even though it was close by, I didn't have to stop by all the time, which I did anyways, because I just was like, my house okay? I just wanted to make sure, but I really haven't had any bad experiences with that. But I eventually hired somebody. She was a regular cleaner, and it was completely different. And so we went through my list a couple times and just didn't mesh. So I ended up finding someone through an online community on Facebook that does short-term rentals. She gets the same thing when someone checks out at 11 and someone's coming in at 5. Like, you need to be there at 11:30, and I would like you out by 3:30 just in case. And she does a great job, and I'd be happy to share her too, because she's definitely looking for more business, but she's fantastic. So
It's awesome.
she makes soaps and she leaves them.
Yes,
Like,
love
and
it. That's
just
great.
stuff, little things like that people love. I
The
love
flower
that stuff.
toilet paper. I'm
Like a
always,
little
I'm
sticker
love that.
on it.
Like,
I
I,
know.
I don't
Oh,
even
the
want to
bow.
I go there doing
I
it.
thought that was
I'm like,
so
Ron,
cute.
you can go first. I'll go in the other bathroom. Just trying to wrap it up. Seriously. Oh wait. Okay. So one of the last questions. Well, I have 2 more questions. So, expenses. What were some of the expenses that you were like not thinking about potentially in your first go? Anything that came up where you're like, oh.
For me, it was like the koi pond, but that wouldn't happen. But I guess, really find out if your property has something that you're not used to dealing with and you're not used to the cost of something or the time that it takes to take care of it. Definitely look into that, but I don't think I was really shocked about any pricing. I mean, I'm
So
a
does-
bargain
but-
shopper, so.
Yeah, but does the cleaning fee comes out of
The renter pays.
The renter
the
pays
cleaning
for
fee,
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's
Yep.
a separate amount from what you take.
And I leave a buffer. So I have a typical cleaning fee that my cleaner charges, but I'll charge the guest a couple dollars more just because there are times where the cleaning fee is more. So I just had a guest, there's a group of guys, no offense to any of the guys here, but we know how they left it, right? So my cleaner took a little extra time and she charged me $50 extra. But now I had a buffer there from all the times. I think it's like $25 extra each time.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes up for it. So I do that. But bouncing off that last question, it just came to me what it was. I have a hot tub in New Hampshire. And I know a friend of mine actually just got her first Airbnb in Vermont. And we
Yeah.
were talking about the hot tub. And that expense, not prepared for this. The amount of
Electricity bill.
electricity that it uses, the upkeep. I had no idea that there were that many chemicals in a hot tub. And the balance of it,
I can imagine.
there were times where the cleaner sent me a photo, it would be green and slimy. I don't know what people were doing in there. So that was anyone looking to have a hot tub at your Airbnb, or if you go to an Airbnb with a hot tub, next time I go to a Airbnb that has a hot tub, I'm bringing my own test strips because now that I know, ignorance is bliss when it comes to hot tubs.
That's so funny.
Yes.
So what time do we have?
This is not set to the right time.
Oh, okay. I think we'll do a couple more questions and then we'll kind of open it up and we'll talk a little bit about financing and then we'll open it up for any questions that you guys have. Oh, the other thing. Okay, so what was one of my questions? Oh, what was the strangest thing someone has left behind? This is Danielle's question. That was a good one. I was like, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
You want to go first?
Strangest, weirdest thing someone has left.
Honestly, just men's underwear. Like, I don't
Okay.
really. I mean, that I've been told about. My host might have found. I mean, the cleaner might have found some great stuff. I don't know. She didn't tell me because she done it. So,
Yeah.
But
So one of my properties has a lot of bachelorette parties that go there. So I've had penis straws left behind, like all those bachelorette games with naked men and all these things. Very scandalous bikinis or lingerie My cleaner sent it to me, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but throw it away. So a lot of like bachelorette-related things. I actually did have, in New Hampshire, I had a guest leave her diamond watch, and like very expensive makeup, which she probably cared a lot less about in that case, but I mailed it back to her. Poor thing, but if she had left that at the wrong house,
Right.
it would have been gone.
Yeah, so talk to me about a little bit about even like the reviews for you guys. Like how important is that, the reviews for your property?
It's everything.
Yeah. It can make or break you, especially whether, I mean, they review you every few months to be a super host, and just a couple bad reviews can just, take that away. And you, the thing is with the reviews, like, you have to really prove it. I had one time where I was able to get it taken down, but it was because the girl was trying to make it as though it was a race thing, and it wasn't, and it was all documented on Airbnb. And so because she tried to make it be about that, they took it down. Otherwise, they really, I mean, I'm told that they don't take those down.
They don't
So
take reviews down for anything, so you're
that
lucky
was
that you
the
got that
only
taken
reason,
down.
was because if I had been doing what she was accused, she was saying that I asked her to leave because of that reason, and that wasn't the case. And so because of that, they
Like you
took
put
it
a
down.
hole in my wall.
Yeah, that was the least of it. So, that's the only reason they took it down. But thankfully, because it was in the beginning, and it made a huge impact in like the overall score when you only have a few.
Right.
So
Awesome. So let's get down to the money a little bit, because I want people to understand what are you bringing in terms of income for the property. What expenses should you, I know I like totally put you on the spot for this, so like you could be like around, but because we're all here, this is a business, so I kind of wanted to go over your numbers.
So right now, Airbnb will give you like all of your stats, but they do it as a whole. So when you have multiple properties listed, they kind of bundle it all. So, I mean, when I'm investing in a new Airbnb, I want it to make $50K minimum.
And that's after expenses, everything you want to be bringing in.
I want it to profit $50K. So annually. So I base my numbers off that. So I want that.
So you get like 4 and
more.
you're chilling,
I want that and more. And then there's some properties that will do better than others. But right now, I have a good thing going. Both my properties are going to do well over my minimum. My occupancy rates are like 72%, which they say anything 50% and above, you're doing well. So if someone tells you, oh, I get 90%, 100% occupancy rate, not true. The finest hotel doesn't have 100% occupancy rate. So you have to kind of gauge these things. But even a property that makes $20,000, $25,000 a year is still better than
Nothing.
buying a 2-family home or a 3-family home, right? We're in real estate too, so it's still going to be more profitable than that, because that's after your
100%.
expenses. So that's my minimum, just because I want to decorate it really nicely and I want a certain type of property, so that's my base. But I think anything even 25 and above is well worth it.
How about you?
it's all going to depend on where it is, how big it is, how many people you can have stay there. I mean, again, mine's a 2-bedroom, a 1-bath. It's a ranch. I don't even let them use the basement because I use it to store stuff for the next Airbnb and like staging stuff. So it was, like I said, it did well enough from April to the end of the year. It did double what I thought it would do for the whole year. And then that's not even counting, like, that's with Airbnb. There was a month that I had a client in there in the beginning because I hadn't put it on Airbnb yet, and she sold the house and was buying another one, and there was time in between, and realistically, I mean, I give her a really good price, but those people are willing to pay because that's their only option, and they walk into my house and they have clothes and their toiletries, and that's it. You know what I mean? So that's, but it was good enough where I had the opportunity in November. A friend of mine was building a building that I took on the 2 that are opening. It's not even my property. I'm doing them via arbitrage just to make extra money, which is where you lease it from somebody and you take it over and then you do the same thing. You just don't own the building. So to me, it's less invested, but it's going to help me to get into my next few much quicker. So
Do you guys have any?
very good.
Yeah, so leading into that, I feel like that would be a great segment into how do we begin to buy these investment properties.
Yeah, so it's not as complicated as a lot of people would think. It doesn't take like a special type of loan. You can actually finance them with conventional loan financing. The first question you really want to ask yourself though is, are you going to occupy the property at all? So are you going to use it as a potential vacation home and go like 2 weeks out of the year? Makes a big difference. Or is it going to be purely investment and you're never going to go there? If you're actually going to occupy the property for about 2 weeks a year, you can do a second home loan. So you can put as little as 10% down on the property. So you want to have 10% and your closing costs, but you can buy it using second home financing, which is like a 620 credit score. It's conventional loan financing. It's really great. Some of the things to think about though with that is that it has to be a single family or condo when going that route, and it does have to be eligible for year-round occupancy. So it can't be just like a summer home without insulation and things like that. It wouldn't qualify. You do have to remain in control of the property at all times, so it can't be run by like a management company or a timeshare, but you absolutely can rent it, which is kind of a big misconception. You can definitely do a VRBO and you can claim that on your taxes. You just want to make sure it's not, you're not doing it 365 days a year because you did say you were going to occupy the property. Another big misconception with second homes is the distance from your primary residence. A lot of people think that there's like a distance requirement.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah,
It was
there's actually not. There can be lender overlays that maybe they require it, but if you're in an area where you're inland and maybe there is waterfront property available and you want to buy a waterfront home that's actually 10
I have one in
15 minutes from
Connecticut if anybody wants to buy it. 610.
Yeah, I mean,
New construction.
if it makes sense, it can be eligible for second home financing, which again is just something really great. If you are not going to occupy it, then it would be an investment property. So investment property on a single family or condo is going to be a minimum down payment of 15%. You can also buy multifamilies with investment as well. And then lastly, so since we're talking short-term rentals, this rent, can you use the rental income? So on a second home, you're not going to be able to use any rental income to qualify for the property, from the subject property anyway. If you have other rentals and you claim that on your tax returns, we can absolutely use that to offset those payments, but you cannot use rental from the subject property. When buying an investment property, generally you can use the rental income from that property to qualify, but not short-term rent. There may be a case or two where you can, but the reason being is generally the short-term rentals, you don't have lease agreements. You have contracts signed and they're not eligible basically for financing. But again, there could be cases, maybe there are lease agreements in place. So at the end of the day, it's really just best if you're thinking about doing it, I highly suggest, talking to a lender and seeing, because you really might be eligible to finance a property and you don't think you can. So really just, that's the best place to get started, is just to ask some questions.
So I think, so that would be like if you're just doing it by yourself. And then we have Bill. Introduce yourself, Bill Wallace.
Hi guys.
He is our commercial lender, and if you are building an Airbnb portfolio or if you have clients, he is a great resource, and you can talk a little bit about the programs that you offer.
Sure. Hi. What we do is we have a program specifically for Airbnbs. I'm with Cornerstone Commercial Capital. We work with investors and self-employed people. This program for Airbnbs is something where you're putting 20% of the purchase price down. There are no leasing requirements. The way the loan is debt serviced is we get the rental income, the average rental income in that area from the appraisal. Now, to become an Airbnb, once the loan is transferred to the servicing agent, You merely have to prove to the servicer that it is performing as an Airbnb, or that you have a lease in place and you decided not to go the Airbnb route. We do this in 47 states. We have it down pretty much to a science. You need a good credit score, you need some reserves. It's a good program. It's a good program.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. So I feel like we should open it up. Do you guys have anything else you wanted to add, or?
I mean, there's certainly companies that you can have do, you know, so we have cleaners, but I would consider you host your own property, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I host my own property too, but some people don't want to do that and take care of all that stuff. So there's definitely companies out there that do that, and that's, you know,
Fairly easy.
but you know,
Somebody could do better. Delegate. What was it?
right, they're not gonna do,
Not
you know, all the
but
little
who.
things that you might do. I mean, unless you talk to them about it, but, you know, it's everybody's situation's different, I think, so how you can get into it, what you do and where you take it and which avenue you go with it, just depends on what works for you. I think it's a
Right.
great opportunity.
I do think with starting out, like if you're doing your first one, everything is so automated now that you can really host from wherever you are. And with like your first 1, 2, or 3, you can really host those yourself, because if not, you're going to pay a management company 25, 30%, and that is a big hit when you're first starting out. Now, if you have 10 of these things, you're not going to be able to remain successful by trying to manage all of those. So that's when it makes sense to pay that fee. But right now, I don't know if you utilize, but on Airbnb, they have scheduled messaging. So now I have guests checking in and out all day, every day at all these properties, and they're getting messages from me, and I'm not lifting a finger. The only time I have to chime in is when something goes wrong. And okay, something goes wrong, everyone's telling me, oh, you need a property manager, you've got properties in other states, and how are you gonna address something if a pipe bursts, or you know, the electricity is out, whatever it is. Well, it's the same thing that you would do for a property here. You're not going to go drive to that property. You're going to call a plumber. So I have 3 of everything. I have the 3 cleaners, 3 plumbers, 3 everything on standby. So that way, something goes wrong, I call them, and I'm managing from afar.
Right.
So I think, especially with starting out, I'm sure a lot of people here are starting out. I say try not to get into the property management thing right away. Do that down the line.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys have any questions for? Go ahead.
My question, you had mentioned Newport was putting up some new regs. That kind of led me to, I wanted to ask about, specific to Rhode Island, are there particular towns that are more short-term rental friendly, and then are there some that are avoid at all costs?
Yes, and you'll find that in most states. Rhode Island has some towns that there's some where it's a big no. Newport is the resort town of Rhode Island, so for them, it's this battle because the residents don't want it, but the business owners in the state and everyone that's going to benefit from tourists coming in want the short-term rentals. So that's why it's super important to just call per town. So the states don't really have the regulation, it's the towns.
Can you name a few off the top of your head?
Jamestown, forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. Middletown, I think they're starting to open up to it since Newport is becoming so strict.
I saw a bunch down there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you'll see stuff listed, but it doesn't mean it's legally listed. Providence does allow, there are certain regulations. What
So
does Warwick?
isn't regulated. It's
Okay.
like, this is how they look at it. If they get too many calls from your neighbors or too many complaints, they're gonna make you shut it down. But you can avoid that by regulating who you allow to stay in your property, age limits, a number of people, make friends, make nice with the neighbors, you know, bring them little things at Christmas. Cause you know, you want them to be able to call you, especially if you're far away. I mean, if you're far enough where you could see from one yard to the other though, you'd want them to call and tell you if something was going wrong.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I haven't had any, I mean, I've had a problem, one time, but, you know, it was the neighbor and it wasn't my property. He's not a big fan of it. They're older, they didn't understand the concept, and, they thought that they could just say that they didn't want that happening there and that could happen, and when they realized that, they started harassing a guy that was in, for training at Quonset. He was staying at the house for about a week, and they harassed him and they threw eggs at my house in his car, and so the guy called me, and
People.
so, you know, like, I don't know what I thought I was gonna do, but it's an older guy and woman, so I went down there and, I called the cops, because I didn't, you know, the guy wasn't bothering them. It was just like a way for him to do something that thought would upset me and shut it down. But I asked the cop specifically, like, is this gonna count as a complaint? And he's like, no, but you're complaining, they did something to you, they have no right, you know, this is your property, so, you know. I mean, I
That's just
assume
like
if someone
landlord
keeps
problem, like
calling,
any kind of, yeah,
you
it's like
know,
you gotta
it's-
deal with
yeah.
it. Yeah.
yeah, so.
Yeah. Any other questions? All
I
right.
might have missed this, but where are your properties located? Both of you guys.
I have
Like what city?
I have some in Newport, Providence. I actually have one in Pawtucket right now, and New Hampshire, like central New Hampshire.
Near the airport, and then the other two are in Connecticut.
Go ahead.
So do you like usually call it to check out with the town first if that's allowed? And then you can go from there, like checking out properties to start it?
Yeah, because if you don't call first, you could end up, especially if you're going to purchase the property, you could end up buying this property, counting on certain income to find out it's completely banned. Or there's regulations that prevent you from getting the number of guests that you were counting on.
I think what you said earlier is super important though, because Rhode Island, it all depends on the town, and this is still like, although it seems to me like from staying at them, Airbnbs
For a long time,
10
yeah.
to 12 years, but a lot of people, the whole concept is new, so I think that a lot of things are gonna change, and so when she said she looks at it like, I knew I'd be able to long-term rental this house, or even this other property that I'm doing rentals at. We wanna make sure, because, especially because it's so new, things can change at any time, so.
Go ahead.
So my only question was, I know you had mentioned that on one of the new construction that you had taken out 2 leases in order to start help building your funds in order to purchase your next property. What were some of the lease terms that you typically need in place in order to allow you to do the short-term rental?
It's not gonna be very easy, I'll tell you that. This is a friend of mine that's a builder. It's my boyfriend's best friend. He bought the property as, to redo it for his shop. And because he wanted it to just be a commercial, but it's actually mixed use. And the city said, no, we want it to still be that, because we want the apartments up there. We had just sold 2 of his investment properties, and so he was like, we just got rid of those because I don't want to be a landlord. So I was like, well, you know, I can take it over. I think though, maybe if you have like a business plan and you meet with, you know, a landlord, or you connect with someone that's gonna be renting out, and you sit down and show them, you know, this is your plan and this is how you're gonna do things, you're gonna have a better chance. But I would absolutely make sure, you know, some people will say, if you can get them to sign the lease without it saying it can't be sublet, then what can they do? I wouldn't get yourself in a situation like that. I'd wanna make sure that whoever you're renting from knows your intentions.
And I think online, they have a lot of like copies of leases for like the rental arbitrage. I haven't dabbled in that yet, but there's a lot of podcasts about it, and they'll point you in the direction of copies of leases, because there is certain verbiage in there that you have to have, and like the property owner, like from a landlord perspective, like we're gonna want to see that you have a type of insurance for these guests that you have coming in and out. Certain like maintenance things are gonna be like, it'll probably end up being your responsibility if you go that route, so I would look into that, like what those details are.
Go ahead, Shay.
On the topic of insurance, is it harder to get insurance for like a short-term rental, and how does it compare with like a residential property, like long-term?
It's not harder, but it costs more.
Yeah.
So you have, I'm sorry, on the insurance, you have in addition to your homeowner's insurance, you have a different type of insurance or extra?
So there's just like a different type of insurance. If you're gonna be doing short-term rentals, they, my insurance agent is right behind you. So they want to cover you for different things. They want, like a higher liability. I think she put coverage for like the furnishings that were in there, and there's just different things that you have to be protected on, and higher payouts, because you're gonna have different guests in and out all the time.
And that was something interesting you had mentioned as well, was when you're picking out the furniture for the property, it's really about picking out the most like durable,
Comfortable.
durable, comfortable.
Yeah, it's like full package, like not breaking the bank, has to be durable, and it still has to be stylish.
Yeah.
You don't want the place to look like
And does
vanilla
Airbnb
cookie cutter.
protect you at all, like with insurance?
They
as far as-
do. They do have a policy.
I wouldn't, I mean, you're gonna say that, but I wouldn't rely on just that beyond your normal.
But it's like
insurance.
usually extra in case there were like damages caused by like
is.
one of the guests that
Yeah.
walked through there.
Yeah, so
something
they
in
have a
place.
1 million policy. It's not liability, so you need your insurance for that. But for protecting like the furnishings in the house and like damage that
Damages,
the guests
okay.
could that you could incur. And they're actually really great with it. I had my first time where I had to go through them for damages, and you just have to prove the case. So I keep everything on the Airbnb app. I never message, call, anything outside of that. And that way Airbnb can just look at the log, they see what transpired, and then you send in the photos and you send in receipts, and they ask no questions.
Oh, that's wrong.
They'll issue the payout. Yep.
But I mean, that's on Airbnb, and so if you go on like VRBO or
Yeah.
Furnish Finder or Traveling Nurses, it's gonna be different. So you can't just, and then if you're doing it on multiple sites, like you just, they also made it, like it's easier now, but before, if you had someone checking in and checking out on the same day, if you didn't notice someone between that 4-hour period, or your cleaner didn't, and then take a picture of it, and you didn't contact Airbnb before that 5 p.m. person clicked that they checked in, that was it. Like, you didn't have an opportunity, and so like with a broken window, that happened to me. Now it's, like, just recently that was changed. I haven't, by, what is it, like a month, or they give you so much time to
report
get it in and get your, get the reimbursement. But I have heard they're very good about it, if
They
it's
are.
in the right time frame, so.
Go ahead, you had a question?
Yes, I have two questions. My first one's for Ashley. Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
It's a financing question. So, on a second home loan product, is there area restrictions? Like, do you actually have to prove that that area is a touristy area that you,
No.
knowing that you're gonna use it part-time too,
It really
but
just
still.
has to, it's more just like a make sense. Like they just
Okay.
want to make sure that you're not going the route of a second home and it's really a true investment property and you're
Okay.
doing it for that lower down payment and potentially a lower rate.
Right, and that's why I was asking.
Yeah,
that.
so as long as it makes sense, but it doesn't like have to be waterfront or have to be
Okay.
this or have to be that. It's more just kind of analyzing your situation and, things like that, so.
Can you pay us? I feel like it's
Yeah,
just
right. Basically.
the bank.
That
Maybe a
wants
little
to know,
point
yeah.
too, yeah.
And then my second question was, I know you ladies touched on it a little bit, but would you recommend like a minimum stay? How would you gauge that? Is it dependent on the area, the season?
I say it depends on the area and then therefore the season. In Newport, I was allowing one-night stays, but I wasn't really getting them, so I just boosted to the 2-night because my cleaner was getting frustrated when I did have those random one-night stays.
Yeah, I
It was
could
just like
imagine
kind
it's
of
a
too
lot.
much for her. She'd end up with like 3 cleanings in 1 week, So now I pretty much do 2-night minimum across the board. But I do think, depending on the area, let's say you are in NYC, right? You might want to allow a one-night stay because
Right.
you're competing with a lot of hotels. So it's really area dependent on that.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Do you register an LLC for this, and do you register them for like each property separately, or do you just have one for all of your properties?
So yes, you should do an LLC for the property. I don't know how that would work as a second home. Couldn't do that, right?
Yeah.
You would do it after.
Yeah.
You would just
Yeah.
purchase it as a second home and then just create the LLC and then put it
For
into
the
the
conventional
LLC afterwards.
financing, it's gonna need to be financed in your name independently.
So it depends how you're going to purchase. But putting it in the LLC is essentially another layer of like liability protection for you. So I think you should. Most times, it depends how many properties you have. So like people will bundle different properties in different LLCs. You don't want to put all of your properties in one LLC once you get to a certain number of properties, because then it gets rid of that whole liability thing. Because someone could sue your LLC and it goes across the board. Whereas if you kind of bundle, you separate that.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
For the vendors, how do you make arrangement with them? Do you pay them like a fee, something that you can call them and then, okay, they're
Like the cleaners?
yeah, like clean all any vendors like the plumbers, electrician that you have to pay backups. How do you make that arrangement? Like, hey, can you come help?
How do you do your cleaners?
So when I get a booking, I automatically send an email, invite to my cleaner so she knows whether it's weeks ahead of time. I mean, the shortest time it's usually ever been was maybe a week, but she knows that that's part of, if she can't do it, another girl that she works with will do it, but I just let her know as soon as I know. And I pay whoever does the work out of the business LLC bank account. And that way it's all under the same thing for taxes.
Something
Go ahead.
Something that I started doing just to make it like a little seamless, I screenshot the calendar and I send it to them. So my cleaners and my snow removal, they can see the in and out. So they know when they need to come and do all that. And I send them like 2 or 3 months at a time so they can plan. And then if any changes happen, then we kind of have like a side message. But I do it like that just to keep everyone on the same page.
Just do like a one Google Gmail calendar for each of the Gmails. Like that's how I would do for the next one. We'll have a different Google calendar and then I just send it out on that. That way I kind of know too when the turnovers are without always having to go into my Airbnb app itself. It's been successful so far. So.
I think you had a question?
Yes, I do. My question is, have you guys talked about multifamily property users for Airbnb? And if you guys have done it, do you know if it's possible or?
I haven't done that. I guess it would depend on the area. I wouldn't, personally, I don't think that I would take a 3-family and put 3 Airbnb properties in it. I just think that's asking for a headache, to be honest with you, and neighbors to hate you. But if you lived nearby, I don't know, I probably want to spread it out, maybe do like, it depends on how you're going about it. You might have to be living in that property. So then you decide, do you want 2 Airbnb properties? Or maybe you want 1 and you want a long-term tenant? Just to get started, you can get started with 1 unit. But, I mean, I guess I wouldn't suggest it, especially your first one.
Yeah, I think you're right
It's a lot
where
at once.
it depends on the area because, for example, Newport, they won't allow multiple on one property. So in that case, like let's say you have a 3-family and you wanted to do this, maybe you could bundle 2 floors. So now it's a larger unit, right? So now you have 4 bedrooms instead of a 2 and a 2. And then you rent upstairs as like a long-term rental. something like that I've done. And then there's something else. I know we're talking about Airbnb and we keep saying like vacation and tourists, but for example, traveling nurses,
I was gonna ask that.
traveling
question
nurses,
after
and
you
they'll
guys
do a
done.
30-day block, or they're doing like 8 weeks right now. So like my property in Pawtucket, I have traveling nurses from Mississippi. They're there for 8 weeks. They rent it through Airbnb. So that's a little different. You don't have all these people in and out. So, and Furnish Finder is actually good for traveling nurses as well. So I think a multi
The
would be better
nurses-
for that kind of fit.
Yeah,
I
was
feel
thinking
like
about
that's a
it.
definite backup
Yeah.
plan. A good backup plan is the nurse, like the nurses.
Yeah.
If they definitely, they're always requesting,
Yep.
so not enough housing.
What do you do for security? 'Cause I have one going live hopefully this weekend, and I wasn't sure about like a Ring doorbell. I don't want to hear anybody's, but I also like at hotels, there's cameras on the outside, so we have like the auto lock where you put in the passcode and we can tell who's
Right.
going in, but I don't know about like a Ring doorbell.
Guests don't love cameras.
Right.
But on the app, it does give you a space to let the guests know that you have exterior cameras. You can never have interior.
Right.
But there is a space you can let them know. It can be good because let's say the town or a neighbor gives you trouble. And now you're in front of the town and you're like, listen, I have added measures to ensure that there's not a 30-person party going on at this place. I have a camera. It can be good. Do I think it's a must-have? No, but I don't think it's gonna hurt you.
Okay.
I think that I know you don't wanna hear them, and I get that, I don't even wanna, right, but you do wanna know maybe if you can know ahead of time if things are getting really loud before your neighbors get called or the cops. So I bought a product called Noise Aware, and so if the decibel goes like above it, it's super simple. It connects to an app on my phone, throw some batteries in, or you can stick it in the wall, batteries in as backup, but and it lets you know if it goes above, a normal rate, and then you get an alert, and you can kind of maybe send a text like, hey, it's getting a little loud over there.
Okay.
I haven't had
like
to
the
yet,
backyard or
but-
something?
So, no, mine's in the house. I wouldn't put it
okay.
in the backyard.
Yeah.
I don't even know if it would work, to
Okay.
be honest, and depending on the size, but inside, yeah,
Okay.
I do.
That's a good idea.
In terms of safety too, when the property has a lockbox, every single person that goes, like your cleaner, do they change the lock and the code and let you know? How does it work so you're all on the same page?
I know, so a lot of people were doing the lock boxes, but now that they have the digital keypads, it's way better for security purposes. So I always do ones that connect to Wi-Fi, that way it's seamless. I don't have to worry about the little hub getting unplugged and then it doesn't work. So I'll change the code between guests, and then those deadbolts let you assign codes. So I have Airbnb guest has a code, my cleaner has a code, like the handymen have a code. So I can see who went in at what time, and then I'll change the Airbnb guest code, between guests.
But then I would still leave on the property, and I only see this from experience, because, sometimes you get those locks where you can change a code, which I had. You don't, you can read reviews, but obviously it's trial and error. So one time when I happened to be in South Carolina, somebody had just had no patience, jammed the
Backup
whole
key,
thing up.
yeah.
And luckily, someone in my family had a key and went and brought it, but now I do, leave a lockbox hidden on the property, just in case. But otherwise, yeah, you don't wanna keep using the same lockbox, cause then everybody that's coming knows the code to get in,
And
so.
in terms of financing, you mentioned that you can get a loan as a second home,
Yes.
but what if you get a third? Is that always counts as a second, like in terms of down payment,
If you get another property,
after the second home?
after, it would likely be an investment property, because at that point, how many properties, are you occupying part-time? And with conventional financing, you can have up to 10 properties financed at once. The reserve requirement does go up as you start to gain properties. You will have to show more, available funds as reserves, but you can have up to 10 financed at one time.
Up to 10?
Mhm.
With a 15%?
It depends on the property type that you're purchasing, but you can have up to 15 properties basically under financing, like at one time as a whole. So if you're kind of building a portfolio and you want to buy another one, you already have 4, you're still eligible to be qualified for conventional financing.
Is that it? Can we clap?
Wait,
Oh, wait,
we've got
one more. I
one.
can't see. Okay, go ahead.
Do you allow pets, and if you do you have any special rules or restrictions or fees or anything?
Go ahead.
I didn't allow pets, but I also have a dog, and I ended up allowing people depending, but now Airbnb just put a price. I used to do a separate price, and because there was nowhere on Airbnb, but now they have a price. However, it's the same price no matter how long you stay. So right now I have someone there for a month and a half. They're paying the same thing for their 2 dogs that somebody would, well, I fixed that, but they could be paying the same $100 for 2 dogs that someone would stay, that was staying one night with 1 dog would pay. There's really, you pick a price and that's it. It's kind of like a
Yeah, they've got to
blanket.
change that.
And so I, contact the people once I find out what breeds, how many dogs. Like, I don't really want more than 2 dogs in the house. It's not huge. I don't know. Depends on the dog.
Yeah. So on my listings, I don't put that it's pet friendly, but I've had people reach out and ask. So I do it situational based. But I do the same thing. So I charge a pet fee, and I know they just added that feature, which is so dumb.
It's a waste.
So their feature just has per stay pet fee, and it'll get changed because all the hosts are complaining. So you can request money from the guests. So I will keep it in the Airbnb thread with the guests, and if they agree, here's the pet fee. If you agree, I'll request the money from you. So I tend to do $200 per pet, and this is for like a weekend to 1 week stay. And if I don't like to allow more than 2 dogs either. And then I do have in my my house rules, if someone sneaks in a pet, there's a $500 fee. So I do let people know, and they don't know if you've got cameras or whatnot. So they're typically going to be more forthcoming and not try to sneak the pet in. But in the way that I word it is not that I'm trying to make extra money. It's my cleaner has to do a more thorough cleaning because my future guests see that this is not a pet-friendly place. So what if someone has an allergy? I want to make sure that my cleaner thoroughly cleaned and my next guest isn't going to have an allergic reaction.
Some people are amazing and they clean up after their pets, and some people it's like, I've gotten pictures from my cleaner where she's like, oh man, like I don't know if I'm going to get all of the hair off of everywhere, before 5 o'clock or whatever, but I guess, and I also think it depends on the property. If I didn't have this huge yard, I don't think I would have even allowed it, just because. But,
Go ahead.
Are either of you planning on getting more properties, and if so, where?
Yes, everywhere.
yeah. Everywhere I want to travel to.
All right, well, I want everybody to give these awesome people a round of applause. And thank you guys so much. Thank you
for having us.
Buy some CBD. Seriously. Also, if you guys ever, we have this space, please use it. Let me know if you want to use it for yoga, for a workshop, whatever. I always say we pay rent here, so I want to continue to just use this space for anybody. You can just message me on Facebook. And I think that's all I had to say. Oh, and follow me on YouTube because I have the Meg Mutt Show. It's pretty funny. Went door knocking in Newport. It's totally embarrassing. And Joel, he is also amazing. If you guys need any video, photography, anything, hit him up. He is incredible. Go ahead.
I'm going to send if you guys didn't
Yes, sign up.
sign in, and I'll just kind of send some of the templates and stuff that I wish that I had in the beginning. Might be helpful
Yeah, some of
when
the
you're
websites
starting,
that we talked
because it's
about.
a lot of different. Your first one, you're gonna discover stuff even after you start.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not rocket science here. We don't have to like reinvent the wheel every single time.
No, but I think that a lot of people are getting into it. So when like I said earlier, you can't just buy a house, throw furniture on it, put it online, and think you're gonna make $1 million.
Yeah.
Eventually, everyone's gonna be doing it. So you wanna make sure that yours has something different from everyone else's, or it has everything that's needed to who's it's geared towards.
All right, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.